welcome back to the vlog. So yeah, I'm gonna show you my face today because yeah, it's just one of those days. So I'm just going to show you like how I do like my quick meal. Our staple is actually SADZA, which is like mealie meal, like some people call it stiff porridge, some people call it NSIMA, some people call it PAP here in South Africa. Yeah, I don't know what people call it. They call it different names from different parts of the world, but it's a staple in Africa. I think a lot of African countries actually cook that. So where I come from, right, that's what we have pretty much almost every day, if not every day, twice a day. So but the staple is you can either have it with collard greens, you can have it with cabbage, fried cabbage, or you can have it with stew, or pretty much anything. It's a blend dish. You usually need to have it with something else, but if things are tough, I know like there's some people who just have it plain like that with a little bit of salt or just as is. I've never personally done that, but I guess if you're hungry and that's the only food, you would be able to eat it. So anyway, I'm making the stew here. So basically how we make our stew is the same for everything. Pork, beef, chicken is you can either just boil the meat for as long as needed. Like chicken, you don't need to boil it so much in pork, but beef takes a little bit longer. But you can also look at that. Okay, you can also just fry it and then continue on with your stew. So I am cutting my veggies here, my onions first. So we just use onions, tomatoes, and what we call relish mix or soup powder, just to thicken, right? Though if you're really good, you can actually serve is you can actually have a relatively thick gravy or stew without adding anything on, like soup powder or corn flour or something like that. Okay, so I have done my onions and I'm gonna put them on the side here. I'll just cut all my things at once and then I'll start frying. Okay, and then here are my tomatoes. So it's that time of the month whereby you've got nothing in your fridge. So I'm using these tomatoes. They had some parts that were not so good. I just cut them out. I don't like wasting food, I know like there are a lot of people who are desperately hungry, so I always try to be frugal or to get the best out of my fruits and vegetables, and I just I really try to have a zero waste, so when I'm making food, especially like like that food that the regular food that kids don't like veggies or like pap, my kids are not really into it. Yeah, I would ask them like how hungry are you, and then I make just enough, and I always say sometimes you won't get an opportunity to ask how much they want. Then you can just okay, there's a little piece here. Then I can just ask them when I serve the food. I say, okay, if this food is too much, then take a plate or a lunchbox or a container where you can put it in so that we don't waste the food and you can have it later or someone else can have extras. Okay, so yeah, so that there is no waste. So here are my tomatoes. I'm not really cutting them properly, okay, I am cutting this properly, but I usually prefer them cut up a lot finer than this, but this is fine. This can work too. So yeah, so basically these are the two main ingredients of the stews that I make. That's how my mom taught me. That's how a lot of people make their stews back home. I'm from Zimbabwe, though now I've been in South Africa for about 18 years, but I find it really difficult to make stew or gravy without onions and tomatoes. If push comes to shove, I can make do without the onions, though I love onions. It won't taste as nice, but yeah, without tomatoes it's really difficult. Okay, so here are my veggies, and now I'm going to go on and fry the meat. So the meat that I have, it's beef trimmings. It's very soft, so there's no need to boil it. So I'm just going to fry it, and then I'll add on the tomatoes and the onions. Okay guys, I've already just heat the oil. I think it's actually a bit too hot, and then I'm gonna put my beef. It's not too hot. Okay, so yeah, I don't want it to have too much flavor. You can put like any spice that you want. You can put curry, you can put turmeric and others, but my favorite is actually with little or no spices. So now I'm just going to put some salt, right? Yeah, I don't even know like how much salt it is. Probably about a teaspoon. It depends on how much salt you take, but yeah, if you think this is a lot, let me know in the comments. It doesn't taste pretty salty to us. And here's some lemon juice, and then that's it. So you don't have much of a flavor. So because the oil was not super hot, it will kind of like it'll kind of like boil in the, not boil, simmer, right? It'll kind of like simmer first before it fries, and then that lemon juice will just soak up, right? So leave it like this, and then yeah, and then I'll just be stirring occasionally. Okay, and then whilst that's happening, I'm going to boil the water to cook the pap. Okay, so now I'm making the SADZA. So you need to make sure your pot is on very high, not very high, but I think the second hottest setting, and then it depends actually on how much mealie meal you use. Depends on the size of your pot, right? So this is a pretty medium pot. I'm not so sure of the dimensions, but yeah, so this is a medium pot, and then I'm going to put about 3 scoops of mealie meal, right? And I'm going to use this, it's a wooden spoon, but in my language it's called a mugoti, right? And this is what we use to actually make SADZA, right? Yeah, so you'd do this, and then you see we put the mealie meal, right? And then yeah, my stove is actually hot, so I'm just gonna move this a bit. Okay, and then you just add enough cold water to make it into a paste, right? So it has to look something like this, just enough so that it won't become lumpy. So in the village where they don't have like these electric kettles, or they actually boil the water in the pot, and then they use what I've just done in the pot here. Then they use a bowl to actually well, it's looking brown because the stove was hot, so the mealie meal was actually toasting. But anyway, in the village they would put the water in, and then they would boil the water in the pot, and then use a bowl to actually have this consistency so that it's not lumpy. And then you take your hot water, boiling water really, right, and then you pour it in. That's how I do it here. But yeah, if I didn't have a kettle, I'd have to use a bowl and then add the mixture into the water, right? So either way is actually okay for making pap, right? And then you just have to stir occasionally, right, until it starts to boil. And depending on the type of mealie meal you have, it will take about, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes, right? Or maybe 15, I'm not so sure. So here in SA, where we are, the mealie meal is genetically modified. So you find even with the meat, it's easy to process, it's easy to cook, it cooks faster, though it's not as organic. But if you get the real deal, like free range meat, free range food without chemicals, it takes a lot longer. Like I think when I was back home, would boil the beef for at least an hour to get it soft enough to actually cook, right? So this is it. So in other cultures, what they actually do, hold on, I just want you to see. Yeah, that noise is the meat frying on the other pot. So there you go. Yeah, I think it's starting to simmer now. So in other cultures, they don't even put in a bowl or mix in the mealie meal the way I did, but they use hot water and a whisk. But the whisk is different. It looks kind of like this mugoti, but then it's got the metal wires at the end, and they look kind of like a tube. So it's not like oval, like how you see those whisks are, but it's like, it looks like kind of like a tomato at the end. And then what they'll do is they'll add in the mealie meal, and they'll be going like this. So as they're doing this, it's actually integrating the mealie meal into the water, right? I'm not very good at doing that, so I just prefer this way of doing it. So now this is going to boil, so it should be ready in about 10 minutes. You need to be very careful because you can burn. So actually, when this is done, right, it's actually like mealie meal porridge or soft porridge, or I don't know, what other people call it. So this is what, when we grew up, would have in the morning, right? So you'd make it like this, and then once it's done in like 15 minutes, and then they would give you they would put in a little bit of salt, some sugar, and usually peanut butter, though you can actually put just butter or margarine, or just a little bit of oil. You can put lemon even, or just have it plain, so yeah, that's porridge for you. So let's get back to the beef stew. Okay, so you fry your meat until it's golden brown, and then you add your onion first, right? And then you just fry it until it's soft. And you see how dark white it looks before it's actually done. So when it's sort of like transparent, then yeah, it's soft enough, then you can add your tomatoes. One thing that I hate, and my husband also hates, is when you eat stew, and then you can feel the chunky tomatoes and onions, and they are not like, they are not soft and blended in. He doesn't like that. I also don't like it as well. So yeah, at our house we always make sure that the onions are, you know, are well done in the tomatoes as well. So the onions are all done, right? The onions are done now. I'm going to add. They don't have to be like completely done at this stage, because as you fry the other things they'll cook too. But yeah, they need to be almost done, otherwise the stew will be done and you know you have this thing like this. Yeah, so like I said, I when I'm having this with SADZA, I do like sometimes when you have like flavor and stuff, but in general I think I prefer the simple way, just the simple, the way we grew up having ours, you know. So yeah, so I'm just going to leave it yeah, for a few minutes, stirring occasionally, because tomatoes cook slower than onions. But yeah, I think there was one time when we didn't have, we ran out of tomatoes, and yeah, I think we used carrots, or was it butternut? You know, it was something different, but not something that I usually like to do. Let me know in the comments how you make your beef stew. Yeah, I know there are many ways of making it, but just the staple, how you would make beef stew. And yeah, this for us is the tried and tested way, and it's very economical. And it's not just how we make our beef stew, it's usually how we make our favorite dish, whether it's stew, whether it's tried, or you know, pretty much anything really. We love our tomatoes and onions. Okay, so as you can see, my tomatoes are cooked through now, right? So basically it like you can go one of two ways. You can just turn it into a stew, and so what you do is you'd add more beef stock, right? So let's say you boiled, and you'd keep some of the stock and not let it boil down, and then you can use it for when you're now adding the soup powder, and you want to thicken your stew. Or you can add collard greens, right? So I like that. My preferred method is like when it's like this, the tomatoes are done, I add my collard greens or my spinach, you know. But I don't have enough. I've got some, as you can see, I've got some leftover collard greens now. So it's not a lot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do like half and half. I'm going to make it into a bit of a stew, and then I'll add the collard greens, so the stew will have the collard greens. But usually if I had enough like this collard greens, I don't like it to have too much gravy or broth. So since I fried my beef, I don't have any stock. I'm just gonna put a little bit of water there, you know. Yeah, or maybe it's a lot of water. Yeah, it's a little bit of water, right? And then there you have it. And then it's runny, which is not nice. So I'm going to take some soup powder, right? And then I'm going to add it. Okay, so the soup powder thickens your gravy, right? But then like for me, I don't like to put a lot of it, because then it changes the flavor. It's obviously got seasoning and things in it, so it doesn't taste as natural. So I try not to put a lot, or any at all if I've got collard greens. But yeah, today you can see already my gravy is starting to thicken. So if my collard greens were fresh and not cooked already, I would add them at this stage, right? Because they don't need to cook too long. I like them still relatively green and not brown with all the nutrients out. But because they're already done and just defrosted, I'm just going to let my stew simmer for a little bit, about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to lower the heat, right? And yeah, I'm going to lower the heat and then let my stew just simmer, and then I'll add the porridge. So now, as I'm doing that, I'm gonna go back to the SADZA. Okay. So here's my lid. I know it doesn't have a thing. I need a fork to actually pry it out, but that's okay. This is the real deal. I'm not some, chef who's got everything in order. I'm just a mom who just makes a wife who just makes food for her family. So some of my stuff, some of my stuff, or most of my stuff I use, they've got character. And yeah, I actually like this pan. My husband bought it with another set of pots for I think it was our 7th year anniversary. So I'm not gonna get rid of it because it's got sentimental value, and it actually does the job. Okay. So now for the SADZA, it's done. Like I said, if you wanted to make porridge, then this is yeah, you see it's nice and thick. Then you can have some porridge for the kids or for yourself for breakfast. But like, we're not doing that. We're making SADZA. So I lower the heat because if I leave it to really simmer, it will, it can burn me. So I just reduced it a little bit because I'm trying to concentrate on shooting this video. So there you go. So I'm going to add gradually the mealie meal. Do you see? I usually start with 2 and then I add it in. So people have got different ways of doing it. This is how I do it. So you can imagine if it's like really boiling or simmering furiously, you can get burnt. And when I was learning at, I think, 11 years old, I did get burnt a few times. But the more you do it, the more, like, the easier it is. Like, I can do this almost with my eyes closed, almost. Okay, so as you can see, whichever technique you use, all you just want is to mix it like this, and then start going like this. So that's why we use these wooden spoons, this mugot with flat sides, because you use it to sort of like to crush the any bubbles that are there. Then I'm just gonna add more mealie meal. You need to be fast because the thicker it is, the easier it burns. So you really do need to be fast. I think I made it. I think this is just about right. It depends on how thick you want it to be. It can be thicker than this. I think like, especially in the village, or people who do manual jobs, or usually men, they prefer it very thick, because the thicker it is, the more filling it is, so it's very high in starch and energy. But yeah, back home people actually do a lot of things manually, so they burn off that they burn off the energy. There are very few overweight people. There are, obviously, but in general, people are just fit because they do their laundry by hand, they mop on their knees, they do a lot of things manually. Even the bus stops, like from public transport, you sometimes have to walk a long distance with your groceries and stuff, so you use a lot of energy. But basically, this is it. So you just mix and stir it until you have until all the lumps are gone, and then you reduce the heat. Okay, So I'm going to reduce the heat here, and then you cover for about 5 to 10 minutes, right? And then you're gonna have to stir again, and then it will be ready. Okay, so that's me opening the lid, and as you can see, my stew is now done, right? So basically you can have it like that. Actually, I think I made it the consistency of when you're not using when you're not adding collard greens, but I'm just going to add mine in because it's done. I've already switched off the stove, but it's still hot. Then I'm gonna add my collard greens in there. So there you have it, guys. It's actually all done. Okay, so now I'm going to serve the food. Well, this is basically easy to show how you dish it, but I'll show you how like the 2 ways that you can dish your PAP or your SADZA. Okay, so this is it. Oh, let me move my other pot this side. There we go. Right, so as you can see, when you leave it for those 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it actually thickens, right? So this is actually thicker than we have it here. We usually like ours pretty light, but what you need to do is you need to mix it again. This steaming process or setting process just helps, like when you add that mealie meal at the end, it's not cooked through, so this just helps it to integrate into the porridge and make it nice. Okay, so there you go. This is how you do it. Good. Okay, so now I'm gonna dish the PAP and serve my family. Okay, now I am going to, here's the PAP, here's the SADZA. I'm gonna show you the 2 methods that I know, right? So the first one is, you have to knead it again. The longer you leave it, the stiffer it becomes. So you find that if you want to actually have it soft, but you're not having it immediately, then you just need to make sure you make it very soft when you're adding in the mealie meal at the end, so that by the time you have it, it's relatively thick but not too thick, right? We call this chidina in Shona, which is like a brick, because it can become very, very stiff. So the first method is just like this. You just use the wooden spoon and you kind of and then basically this is it. This one is pretty stiff, right? So if it was soft, you leave it a little bit, and then when you turn it around, it looks pretty nice. So this one is still very stiff, so yeah, but it looks more presentable, though it doesn't make a difference when you're putting it in your when you're eating it, right? But just for presentation's sake, right, you then turn it around. So you put the mealie meal and then you turn it around, and then it looks a bit better, right? And then the second method is don't know if you can see this, go like this, right? You take a big bowl and a smaller little bowl or something like that's like shaped like this. It can even be a dishing spoon, right? And then you make it wet. The water must be cold, right? And then go like this, right? So it sticks to the thing. The water helps it not to stick. and then there you have it. It's pretty much shaped nicely. Okay, so yeah, let me put this on the side. Yeah, so these are the two methods that I know of dishing pap, but maybe there are others. But what I found in my experience, like back home, the people, right, who usually make their pap the way I made mine, like stirring into the water, right, or adding hot water on top of the mixture. Those ones like to use this method of dishing the pap, right? And then the ones that actually use that whisk I was talking to you about, the wooden whisk, right? We call it in Shona musika, right? Those that use the whisk and add the mealie meal to the hot water using the whisk, they actually prefer to use the wooden spoon as is. So I think it depends on where you come from. Maybe other people do it in a different way. Like for us, we grew up just having one little lump like this, or big lump. It depends on the size of pap that you're gonna have. And others, I know they like to roll it into a ball. I actually don't know how to do that. That's another way. They actually like to roll it into little balls, and usually their pap is very, very stiff as it can get. And then they have little balls of pap, and then they put it in a bowl, and then like the family can just serve themselves. You take a bowl at a time depending on how much you want to eat. So yeah, let me dish the rest of the plates and put the relish and show you the final thing. So there you have it, guys. This is the finished meal. This is what we call in Shona, it would be SADZA nenyama yemombe nemuriwo. SADZA nenyama yemombe nemuriwo. Muriwo is what we call collard greens, but it can also mean relish. But yeah, yeah. So this is the meal, and I just wanted to let you know, guys, that in Zim where I come from, right, we do not eat this meal with cutlery. We use our hands. Okay, so some people do use cutlery, but really we don't. I sometimes only use a spoon if I'm having it with sour milk or fresh milk. I don't like it with fresh milk. I actually like it with sour milk, but only with milk is when I have it with cutlery. But otherwise, we have this with our hands. So what you do is you take this, right, and this is pretty stiff, so you can pretty much just go like this with your hands, right, and then you eat it up, right? Or you can some cultures they would go like this, you know, and not some cultures, it depends from person to person, right? And then you go like this, you know, you make it into a ball, right? Make it into a ball, but the technique is basically the same. So you use your fingers to grab the gravy or the collard greens, whatever it is you're having it with. So thank you guys for watching. Bon appetit. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed before, and to like and to share, and please hit me in the comment section what you think, if you've made a similar dish to this. And yeah, and see you in the next vlog.